Hi, thanks for joining me. This is the Remote Online Notary Network, and today we will talk about KBA. KBA is knowledge-based authentication. This is how the person who's about to sign documents with an online notary is verified. KBA references the signer's social security number. An ITIN number or any other kind of number will not work. It needs to be a bona fide social security number. State laws require KBA when the notary does not personally know the signer who's about to sign with them online. U.S. citizens should be able to easily pass KBA, but it doesn't mean all of them do. For my own personal signers, about 10 to 15% do fail KBA. But when I first started out, that number was much higher, and with a little preparation, I've been able to get it down and have more people pass. New citizens will have a harder time with KBA, and this is just because their social security number is so much younger. Permanent residence. Check your state law. Some states say that remote online notarization is for U.S. citizens, but other states say anyone with a social security number and a photo ID can notarize online. In that case, permanent residents are eligible. There are 5 questions. They must answer 4 of those questions correctly within 2 minutes. Timing is important. They cannot go over 2 minutes or they will fail. So prepare your signer. 2 minutes goes by so fast. Make sure they know to answer all the questions quickly, but with focus, calmly, and with complete attention to the task at hand. It's not the time to get a drink of water, and it's not the time to take a phone call. Focus on those 5 questions, really encourage them, let them know they're important, and that they'll get 2 chances. But if they fail, they will have a delay. So what kind of questions will they see? Well, they'll very likely see former addresses. 20-year-old addresses have appeared. So someone may need to cast their mind back to their college apartment and remember that address. The questions are pulled from both public and private data. So many of the questions come from what you would see on a credit report, but some of them could easily be Googled. Probably see something about a lien if they have any liens. Car payments, mortgages, student loans, and business lines of credit are really common. And for the cars, make, model, even the color can come up. There's a few common problems. One of them is co-signing. If the signer has co-signed a car note, he or she may not remember much about that car. Another problem is short history. If the signer does not have debts or a social security number is less than 2 years old, there really may not be enough information to even generate 5 questions. If there isn't enough information to generate 5 questions, it's an automatic fail. And of course, inaccuracy, because not everything on a credit report is 100% accurate. There may be some bad information, and we just can't control that. 24 hours is the magic number. Most states allow 2 chances to pass KBA. If both attempts are failed, a waiting period of 24 hours begins, and there is no way to override it. And some states have a 48-hour KBA waiting time. Let me give you some examples of someone failing. VJ in India entered his home address in India. The next day, it worked when he entered his mother's address in California. Rochelle was asked about her ex-husband's business address. She didn't know any details about it. The next time she did KBA, she called him and had him on the line in case any questions pertaining to him popped up, and then she passed. Amanda was asked about a Mazda she never owned, but the next day, none of the questions asked about that Mazda, and she was able to pass. Ted Jr. was presented questions he felt certain were meant for Ted Sr. The next day when he did the KBA questions, he had Ted Sr. on the line. So here's an example in the image of an identity verification history of someone who failed KBA. The most important thing on here is the last time, 12:16 p.m., because that's what time the signer can try again tomorrow. Not just the KBA questions can cause someone to fail, the identification itself can fail. So for one example, KBA passed, but the photo ID failed when the top left corner of the driver's license had very obvious puppy teeth marks on it. In another example, I had a state put a sticker on the license when the holder of that license changed addresses. That's really unusual. That's the only state I know that does that, and I won't mention which one it is, but the sticker did cause the ID verification to fail. In another example, a signer used a US passport instead of a state ID, but the platform I was using could only process state ID. And in the last example, the signer moved 4 months ago and entered her new address. She failed, and then passed the next day when she entered her previous address. The whole purpose of KBA is to prevent fraud. It's the main piece preventing it in online notarization. The fact is, ID cards and passports are pretty easy to copy. The physical ID that someone holds and shows the notary is only one piece of the puzzle. The KBA is what makes it really tough to impersonate another person. Now, I'm showing you these companies not because you should call them, please leave them alone, but these are the top 3 KBA companies right now. The first is LexisNexis, then there's Ideology and Veritad. So the platform you're using does not run KBA. They contract with one of these companies to run it. So if you contact your platform after a failed KBA, it's not going to influence anything. KBA is kept very separate, very purposefully. It cannot be reset for 24 hours, and the whole purpose is to prevent impersonation and fraud. This is why states require it in the first place. And I also want you to know that KBA is not unique. It's not a policy of any platform. It's just a component to comply with RON law. If you have any questions, I hope I will see you on the Facebook group, Remote Online Notary Network. Subscribe for more RON tips in the future. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.